So today I want to talk about something that comes up a lot in both of the groups because there's two groups, right? And especially the one that has the title of Self-Love and Resilience Discussion Group. A lot of people have a question about what is it exactly? How do I know that I exhibit self-love in my life? People want the signs, like how is this tangible? And so it's something that we're often searching for a lot, but maybe I would say 50-50. Sometimes we're not actually applying those things in our life. We're searching for it, we're not identified in our lives, but it's really a lot about doing. So today I want to take mostly all of the conversations that I've had with people and kind of reduce it into what I have the basis, what I think the basis of self-love is about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I am going to do it through a screen share. Okay, so let me get that set up for everyone. Okay, I think we're good to go. Okay, so um, last week in the Resilience and Self-Love discussion group, it was the ending of the 6-week series about building resilience. And then we end that series with building a resilience plan, talking about what would be included in that plan and what you would be focused on. So I went over some of the steps to establish how to get back to the center, okay, get back in alignment. And a resilience plan is much like a treatment plan that anybody would do, like if you're going through therapy or some type of treatment to address mental health or some type of physical plan, okay, to get you back on track. But again, a lot of the questions are about self-love. So we're starting the next 4 weeks with this particular conversation, and I want to record it and leave it for everyone to access anytime they want to, right? So if you like replays of any of the sessions that we do, any of the discussion groups, the deal is the live discussion is never recorded, right? But the presentation itself is. And then sometimes there are some activities that are included in the session that you can pause and you can participate in, or you could do at a later time. The only thing that's missing is going to be that live discussion, okay? Because sometimes the discussion gets so personal, I just don't think it's fair to put that online. It really depends on how many people are in the group. Okay, so the more people in the group, I can't even say the less personal, but definitely the lesser amount of people in the group, it can get more personal and more specified, as if almost having a one-to-one session. So that's why I don't include the live conversation in the recordings. All right. You can get on the list to get replays through Eventbrite. You just look up Shay's Pretty Skinny and it'll show the meeting that's hosted there. You register for whatever meetings, and then you'll get the recording to say what it's about. You should also get the information for login. I updated that because some people were having difficulty getting in the meeting, or maybe the email was going into their junk box, and so they weren't getting the credential details to sign into the meeting to participate live. So I did update that, okay? So let's go ahead and get into today's topic, which is what is self-love? Now, self-love is often draped in a lot of this mystery and ritual, and it seems like there is like this special way for us to access this hidden gem of getting in contact and getting in alignment with ourselves, right? Now, although there are many theories and many processes, many reflections and things of that sort. So it's like people saying there's more than one pathway to get to your destination. Okay, so that is true. And that depends on what resonates with you, okay? But what is it exactly? What are we trying to do? What is the destination, okay? So we're not going to treat it like it's this trendy phase or this thing wrapped in mystery today. We're just going to expose it in its most realist form, in my opinion, and try to discuss some practical things that are shaping our mental, our emotional, and even our physical health with consistency. And so that means that's something that we have to do and that we have to be consistent with it, right? So what is self-love in our discussion today? Plain and simple, without any bells and whistles, It's acceptance. It's acceptance of who you are as an individual, not your connection to someone else, not the family that you come from, but it is your values and who you are, the acceptance of what you look like, how you exist, your being, your thought processes, your feelings, your emotions. Okay. So, like any meaningful relationship, it starts with acceptance, and self-love is no different, in my opinion. Why do I say that? If you think about how you love a partner or you love a child or a sibling or a parent, right? Um, you don't just love those, even a close friend, you don't just love those people because they're perfect and everything they do is perfect, right? They also have their flaws, but it doesn't stop you from loving them. They go through ups and downs. You are there to support them through their ups and downs, right? They let you down sometimes, and it doesn't affect what love you have for them because you know who they are, or at least you feel like you resonate with them and you know who they are at the core, right? So you forgive them through certain trials, you encourage them through certain ups and downs. You're basically embracing both their strengths and their struggles because this is what makes them who they are, and you love them as a whole in their existence. Now, imagine giving that same energy to yourself. Okay, that's the true foundation of self-love. But self-acceptance, it isn't always easy. Okay. Sometimes it's easier said than done. And there's different obstacles that make that a reality. Okay. Many of us carry obstacles like parents or caregivers that didn't make us feel accepted. Maybe siblings that we grew up around, maybe we were compared to them. Maybe there were certain things that they said to us, right? And we adopted those things. There are certain traumas that reshape how we see ourselves, what type of guilt we carry in our lives, guilt about past choices. Well, I did this and it didn't turn out so well, right? And then there's the external feedback we receive from that makes us feel like we're not accepted, or whatever we did was so bad that we can't come back from it, right? Maybe whatever choice we made puts us on a different path, whether we're happy with that path. Usually it's because we're not happy with that path, right? And we feel like we can't make a different choice, but it's that guilt that we're carrying. That can even go into a bigger picture of like cultural and social conditioning. There are certain things that can teach us to feel less. If we talk about, I don't want to take a hit on the beauty market, but standards of beauty can cause us to feel less than, right? Especially if you're seeing one type of image in front of you all the time and nothing about you looks that way. It definitely causes you to take your focus away from what's beautiful about yourself, because now your focus is on comparison. And if you see nothing similar in yourself to this standard of beauty, and it's not what you're responding to, right? It's normally what other people are responding to. And because we want that acceptance from other individuals, because we want to be included, then we feel like if I had this thing, if I look this way, if I had this achievement, then people would be more drawn to me, or I would be more included in things. I would be more accepted. I would be more seen, right? So a lot of times because of maybe gender, because of race, because of orientation, religion, what we have in our bank accounts, what type of school we went to, whether we went to school at all. Maybe it's about the neighborhoods that we grew up in. Maybe it's about the material possessions that we're able to obtain. Whatever it is, okay, something about that aspect in our lives makes us feel unaccepted. Okay. And then we're trying to figure out what changes can we make, not towards our authenticity, but instead what changes can we make to mimic what seems to be accepted, what seems to be the standard, what seems to be quote unquote normal. Okay. And these kind of blocks, they really get in the way of what already exists within us, right? That authenticity. So if we're talking about it from a metaphysical perspective, everything we need to be whole is already present. We have it. Like we already embody it in this little suit of ours, and this little meat suit is what I call it. I often talk about having all the ingredients for a cake. Well, we have all the ingredients for our cake right here, but often we're chasing the icing, right? But let's face it, kind of the icing, like some people, there's a group of people, and there will always be a group of people that have their preferences, but if there's just icing, it's never going to be a cake, but a cake can be a cake without the icing. In this case, the icing is going to be that external feedback that we're getting, okay? So, everything that we need, we have. When we talk about positive psychology, that is a framework that supports that. Having that well-being or showing that well-being comes not from the things that we don't have, not from that keyword lack, right? But from activating the strengths we do have, from cultivating the gratitude of what we do have and what it contributes to our experiences and aligning with the meanings, right? Being in alignment with that. So sometimes we hand over our ingredients, okay, like unconditional love. And we're hoping that when we hand that over to someone, when we express unconditional love toward someone else, that somehow that can be multiplied and then thrown back to us, right? It can be reciprocated back to us and feel a whole that we perceive ourselves to have, like something that we're missing, right? So if I give it out, then I can fill up that space in me if that person returns it to me. And that's where we start to make a mistake, right? Because people are not always going to be able to mirror it back to us in a way that we can feel or process that information. Okay, that's an illusion. So that feeling first has to be filled up in us. And then when we are full, right? When it's packed down, shaken together and running over, that is what is shared with other individuals. And that is our healthy relationships, our healthy connections, our healthy engagement. It's not taking blood from a turnip. It's not trying to grab from a space that's not there. Okay. So we are the interpreters of our own love, of our own care, of our own value. And then we share that with other individuals. So this is a simple, I'm not an artiste. Okay, so this is my simple illustration of having that seed there. Can I get having the seed there of self-love, right? And that's something that's within. You see it surrounded by this soil, okay? And the soil is the value, the attention, the responsibility. Again, all that comes from us and our experiences, all how we process those things. And so this soil nurtures this seed of self-love. And usually you cannot see a seed, right? You can't see it. What you see is what grows from the seed. What you see is the product of the seed, the product of it being watered, the product of it receiving the sunshine, the nurturing, right? And so all of that nurturing, all of that sunshine, that's our self-acceptance, okay? So you see this little stem here. That's our self-acceptance, our leaves of resilience, our bouncing back, right? Our understanding what our weaknesses are and how they can contribute and build our experience. And then what people see is this wonderful blossom. That's what's shared with others. But we hope to give our seed to people, right? To plant in their soil and somehow for them to return this back to us. But that is not how the process works, okay? You can't give it away and expect it to instantly bloom in someone else's garden, okay? The seed, it has to germinate and grow within you first. Only then can it bear some type of fruit, and that fruit is what you share with others. I'm hoping that's making sense. It's a simple diagram, but I think it chases the journey from inner healing to outward connection, what we want people to see. But what people see is just what's in a mirror. They see a mirrored reflection. So if that reflection isn't first originated within us, they don't see that image. So we have to figure out What is blocking that image at the base, right? Where is the stagnation with that seed? What's happening that the seed that we're nourishing isn't bearing the fruit? Okay, so we're going to talk about value, attention, and responsibility in just a moment. We're going to expound on that a little bit. I just want to make sure. Let me look at my notes really quick. Okay, I do want to point that out because that's the deal too. All right, there's many different seeds, many different flowers, right? So when we talk about our blooms and when I talk about people, especially as it comes to beauty, like you may be a sunflower. Sunflowers serve their purpose. Bees are attracted to them for different reasons. They can also be a source of food that can sustain you. But some people like roses and they consider that to be beautiful. Does that negate the purpose and the process that's important for the sunflower? It doesn't. Okay, so just because a rose has beauty in the way it grows, what it does, it doesn't take away from the place and purpose of the sunflower. Okay, but that's what comparison can do to us. It can cause us to abandon our own place and our own purpose to try to pursue another that doesn't align with who we are, that doesn't align with our authenticity. So just like different things come together in our inner environment to facilitate our growth, that would be our aura and our outward expression. It's part of the ingredients existing in society to create balance and harmony as well. Okay, so although roses carry a certain beauty and aroma, it does not invalidate our purpose, right? And how we contribute to the world as a sunflower. Okay, our power lies in understanding and standing firm in that power and in our self-worth. But there's many things out there, social media, advertising, movies, right? That will try to get us to abandon our authenticity, that will try to get us to call our self-worth into question, to call our purpose into question. If we all had the same purpose, like what kind of world would we actually create? What kind of vision is that? You see what I mean? So self-acceptance is not about perfection. Perfection can be generated, right? It's like AI. It can create perfection, but is it really something that is a natural occurrence in our world? Because that's authenticity, right? It's almost like a drug. It's about honoring like our full spectrum of who we are. So tending to our own seeds and allowing our inner garden to flourish is that natural creation. It's not the things that have been gone and adjusted to to perfection. That and that is something that we have to input something. Still, it requires our essence and our aura. We have to input prompts in order to create perfection. So we are still at the base of that creation. We still have worth. Okay. I could talk about this for a long time in so many ways, in my opinion. So let's break down. I said we would talk about value, responsibility, and attention. So let's break that down because I think those are the three key dimensions of self-acceptance. When you are talking about value, self-acceptance is about recognizing your worth. Okay, so even when we have our so-called flaws, right, and we have undesirable things going on in our lives, it's still that's an opportunity to add value to our experience into our lives because those times spark reflection, okay, causes us to go in reflection. It also is the base of self-awareness, okay, pushes us, there are things that push us out of our comfort zone, right? And that is an opportunity for growth as well. So all of those things are igniting a different feel in us. And when we feel something, it causes us to do something, right? So the negative and the positive, more so, it seems like even the negative moves us to some type of action, right? Then we have responsibility. Responsibility, when it comes to self-acceptance, it means taking accountability for our actions. We acknowledge that our decisions are ours and our decisions alone, right? Even if we choose not to make a decision, that is a decision. So We are not in a position to control what other people feel. We don't control what other people think. We don't control what they do. We only control what we feel, what we think, and what we do. So sometimes we are left with emotions where we may feel hurt, right? But we have to decide what to do with those emotions. Are we in a position where we want to let those emotions eat away at us, right, and cause towers in our lives? Or is there a way that we can build on that experience? It doesn't mean that we have to ignore it, but what is this emotion? What is this experience teaching us about moving forward in our lives? Okay. So we take responsibility for those feelings. I like to also talk about accountability because when you're engaging with people, because you don't get to control how they're going to react, right? They don't have to re-engage with you when something happens. Does that mean that you're going to be happy about it? No. If you're the person that has to walk away, does it mean that you will be happy about it? No. But what is that action doing? How is it building you moving forward when you take that action? Okay. What does staying in toxicity, staying in the energy, what does that do to your current experience? Because whatever's happened in the past has happened in the past. That can't be changed. Okay. That has happened. What is it doing for the experience now? How is it building us now and helping us to move forward? When we talk about attention, self-love requires giving ourselves attention. And that can be by asking like what we need mentally, if we have physical needs, if we have spiritual needs. Attention can be about when we're honoring those things. If we are honoring those things and filling those needs, okay? How are we maintaining balance? How are we building ourselves? How are we building stronger, healthier connections to family and society and others? Okay, so value, responsibility, and attention. Sometimes attention is labeled as self-care. Value, self-worth, responsibility, accountability. Okay, if that helps remember it a little bit better. Now, putting this into action, because self-acceptance is not just about complacency, right? There's evidence to self-acceptance. And so it means it can be about embracing where you are, okay? When we're embracing where we are, maybe we think we need to make some changes or we want to make some changes. But we are whole. We are always whole, no matter where we are, no matter what mistakes we made, right? And so we can embrace where we are and where we need to improve while we support ourselves as we grow. Does that make sense? Well, okay, so when we're talking about actions that can happen, forgiveness, right? Mistakes will happen. Mistakes cause pivoting. It can put you in an emotion of forgiveness, right? Calling something to the surface that needs to be discussed and needs to be handled with a loved one or someone that you're engaged with. It's just an opportunity to make an adjustment. That's how we can think of mistakes. We don't have to be down on ourselves or think that we lose value because we make mistakes, think that we're less of a person because we make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the human experience, but it is an opportunity for us to make an adjustment if that's what we're choosing, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that some mistakes are not going to result in a loss or result in feelings that are sad or hurtful, right? But there are lessons in that experience as well. So it's important to remember that, again, you can't change what has already occurred, but you don't have to tap out of the present, right? You don't have to give up in the present because things didn't shape up the way that you wanted it to or the way that you desired the picture to turn out, okay? We can accept our flaws instead of fighting them or trying to hide them. I always use the illustration of talking about weaknesses in an interview, right? Our weaknesses can make us stronger when we accept them. When we try to avoid them or when we try to hide them, then we're missing these opportunities for growth. We're missing these opportunities to learn new things, okay? So what we learn and how we navigate from being pushed out of our comfort zone, that's actually an opportunity to help us build and contribute to that vision of greatness that we have for ourselves. It's that opportunity for pivot. It's knowing that we're not perfect in everything, and then we can see the value in different aspects of other individuals, right? Some people will use it as, what I don't have, you have. And so we make this complete picture, right? So we can actually see the value of other skills, other personality aspects of other people. Celebrating our wins, no matter how small those are going to be. When we talk about rites of passage, right? We should take advantage of those, whether it's going to be something that we do alone. It doesn't have to be in traditional ways either. We can do it with other people. Rites of passage like marriages, graduations, promotions, anniversaries, achievements, transitions, no matter what it is, nothing is too small to be celebrated. Nothing is too small that can be acknowledged. It is a part of you. It is something that contributes to the fruit that you're bearing, right? That contributes to that blossom that you're sharing with everyone. Do people get quote unquote jealous or try to cast a shadow on your blossoms? Of course. But what they can't do is stop the sun from shining. Please do remember that. Okay. Even in the shade, the sun is still there. Okay. The sun is still present. So nobody can turn off your light. Just you, just you, just you. All right. So steering towards your best self is something we can continue to do that. There's never this, people say that it's a journey, not a destination, right? So we can always be steering towards our best self, just like we would encourage a partner or a friend to do so, right? When you think of a painting, there's negative spaces in paintings, especially when we're talking about multi-dimensional paintings. And without that negative space in the painting, there would be no depth that you would be able to perceive, right? It would definitely change how you view the painting if it did not have that depth. And I think that's the same way that our lives can be. It has meaning, and there are negative experiences that don't necessarily need to take away from our value and who we are, but indeed it adds that depth to it, right? They say, without sadness, you won't know happiness. And that's what those negative experiences can be for us in our lives as well. It doesn't mean that it makes us less of a person, right? That it needs to chip away at us, that it needs to devalue us, but instead it builds us more. I think a lot of times we see it as taking away from us, and our experiences are not who we are. We are people participating in experiences, okay? Our experience isn't who we are. We can always have a different experience. We can always make a different choice, okay? The foundation from where we're making those choices, right? Our values, that's who we are. So why does self-love matter? Why should we be interested in practicing it at all? Well, when we practice self-love, we can increase, and we do increase our confidence. Our confidence level rises. We are able to strengthen our resilience as well, not just our ability to bounce back, but being able to endure. The world that we're engaged in, our relationships improve, right? And it's improving because how we treat ourselves often sets the standard for how we allow other people to treat us. If we don't feel that we're worth much, we're not going to require anybody to treat us that way. There are not going to be any boundaries. It's like, well, I feel like I deserve to be stepped on, so then I'm going to allow people to step on me. And all the while, not feeling good about having that experience. So we have to investigate, well, why do I feel like I should be stepped on? Where does that come from? What is the feedback? What is the evidence that is existing in our lives that supports that particular thought? Okay, so when we're talking about self-talk, I always tell people, let's investigate the evidence of that. So when you think that about yourself, when you say that about yourself, there should be evidence to back that up. So we have to investigate that evidence. So self-love is not about being selfish or draining everybody's energy around you and taking from everyone else so that you're able to thrive. Self-love is about recognizing that even taking from other people, it doesn't enhance you. It won't enhance you. It can't enhance you. It essentially only just blocks your authenticity. Okay. So self-love is actually the root of having healthy boundaries, having meaningful connections, and engaging in emotional balance, having emotional balance. I always tell people you're with yourself all the time and you will always be with yourself. It will be that way, and that will be the case until your experience comes to, until this experience comes to an end, right? So we have people who come in and out of our experience either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I do love that saying because I think that it's true. In every present moment with those individuals, that is a little gift that is unfolding because we never know whether it's for the reason, the season, or a lifetime, right? So being present while those individuals are a part of our experience is something that helps to build us. It's either showing us something, it's teaching us something, or it's confirming something for us, right? We either see those patterns or behaviors in people that we see in ourselves and we think, I like this about myself. This is how I can grow it, right? Or we see patterns of behavior that we don't like within ourselves and we say, this is what I'm going to do to steer away from it, or I don't want to become this result. That's not how I want my flower to grow, right? We're the ones who get to make those decisions because we're surrounded by flowers that don't look like us doesn't mean we need to change into that flower. Does that make sense? So environment does play a part, but we can choose not to opt into the environment. That is a different conversation though. So what's everyday practices that we can do for self-love? Because I think that we don't realize how simple it really is and how we might be doing these things already in our lives. Okay, like we might already be practicing self-love in our lives, but we don't value it in that way and we don't single it out in that way. We talk a lot about positive self-talk, right? Being able to replace that harsh inner criticism with compassionate language. It doesn't mean not being honest with yourself. It doesn't mean not being able to see areas where you can make improvement, but it's more about a thought process that is building you, okay? Not a thought process that is sabotaging you. So you have to ask yourself that question. Is it building me? Is it something that I'm learning from? Is it something that I'm growing from? Or is it something that is tearing me apart? Is it something that is drowning me, okay? Positive self-talk, I also think is about being able to say how you feel, being able to express yourself. Because when you tell other people what you think and what you feel, then you're showing that you do value your own thoughts. Does it mean that other people have to value it? No. Does it mean that other people have to align with it? No. But it gives you that opportunity to surround yourself with thoughts and behavior patterns that aren't abusive. Okay, that don't tear you apart, that don't cause you to go out of alignment with your values and who you are. Setting boundaries, we talk about that a lot, not just with other people, because I do talk about setting boundaries a lot with other people, but we have to remember that sometimes we're setting boundaries with ourselves. We need to say no to ourselves, or we need to recognize when we're running away from things and responsibility, if we're avoiding that responsibility, if we're not being accountable, if we're shying away from decisions, right? Veering off from our paths. So boundaries can be about knowing when to reach out for help as well, right? We have a limitation in the area. Maybe we need support from a different source, right? And so boundaries are about really just drawing a line between what aligns with your values and what doesn't align with your values. It doesn't mean that drawing the line won't hurt, though. That's something that I like to always point out. Again, it's not going to be always gumdrops and rainbows, right? We can still use the entire spectrum of emotions to build and make progress in our own lives. That's what transmutation is about, being able to transmute certain energy, right? and use it to build rather than to destroy. Mindful reflection. I talk a lot about journaling because that's a way to get your feelings out as well. Whether you meditate or you pray, you do breath work, right? It's about taking a pause to check in with yourself. It's not about taking the opportunity to beat yourself up. All right. Whatever's happened has happened. There's no need to beat yourself up. Where are we going from here? Do we need to pivot or adjust in some kind of way? Do we need rest? Do we need to release? Do we need to let it go? Are we bending our beliefs to meet the expectations of other folk or just to keep the peace? Because maybe you're keeping the peace outwardly, but inside you have no peace, right? And if you can't, again, if peace is not filling up within you, it's never spilling out to be shared with other individuals. All right. So are you battling all or well, it's the all or nothing thinking, right? So when there's all or nothing thinking, is that triggering you to give up or to lose sight of being able to survive storms, right? It's like, oh, this happened last time, it's happening again. Okay, another pivot is needed, another adjustment is needed. Okay, there are cycles that happen in life, and we can choose to deal with them the same, or we can choose to make an adjustment with how we're dealing with something. But sometimes those cycles can cause us to lose sight of the fact that we can survive it. So are we giving up on our future, and why are we doing that? What is the evidence for doing that? All right. There's acts of care. Care for yourself, nourishing your body, whether that's rest or whether that's physical movement, whether that's food, vitamins, nutrition. Food has a lot to do with nourishing, okay, and depleting our healthy bacteria and chemicals in the body as well. And that is a systematic thing, right? It's affecting our physical and our mental health. So food becomes important at some point. But sometimes we prefer to keep busy or be distracted, and we reach out to care for other people and give assistance, right? But a lot of times it's because that is the assistance and the care that we would want for ourselves. Okay, so performing it for other people brings a level of comfort to us. Again, if we can't receive, sometimes we like to give. What do they say? Those who cannot teach, do, or something of that sort, or those who cannot do, teach. And so that's the same type of concept. But what needs to be remembered is we don't want to deprive ourselves of that care as well. And it is essentially our first responsibility. Okay. So the care that we give to others, we don't want to miss out giving that same care to ourselves because we mistakenly think it's someone else's responsibility. Okay, so don't deprive yourself of happiness because happiness is our responsibility. Okay, don't deprive yourself of rest. Rest is our responsibility. That's part of those boundaries that we set up to say, okay, I've given all that I can give. I need to re-up, right? So we talked about acknowledging your wins, even the little stuff, celebrating your rituals. Are you investing in yourself? That's a point of celebration as well, and contributing to building yourself. Are you allowing yourself to feel your emotions? It's supposed to hurt when someone you love is no longer around. That it hurts. It's a grievance. Something is missing. And so you're allowed to have grief. You're allowed to experience that emotion. What is that emotion doing for you today, though? Is it teaching you to value others around you? Is it bringing you to the memory of having that value? Is it igniting good memories that you had with that individual that you want to continue to carry on and assign value to in your life as you move forward? What's happening there? Okay, so are you following your passions? That is a way to celebrate in your life as well. Having passion and engaging in those passions. Are you learning something new? Right? Even if it has nothing to do with the job that you have right now, or it doesn't have a particular use. It's a curiosity that you have. It's okay to celebrate wanting to learn about that thing or finally enrolling in that class or, you know, finally taking on this particular knowledge, celebrate that. Okay. Don't everything that's what gratitude can be about. Once you're able to celebrate things, you find yourself um, being thankful for the experience that you engage in and that you have an opportunity to run into the things that manifest for you every day. So I talk about reframing a lot, and reframing experiences is about being able to adjust your focus. It's like zooming out, okay, to see a bigger picture or a different aspect of a situation. It's the same example that I used with the illusion photos last week, where you have two images, right? Two images, two perspectives. They're both existing at the same time, but what you see depends on what you're focused on. If you're focused on the negative space, you might see one thing. If you're focused on the light spaces, then you might see another thing. But both images are there, okay? So the same events happen in our lives that happens in the lives of other loved ones, other people that we're not connected to. But for some reason, we tend to see all of the negative things that can happen in everybody else's lives differently in our own. Okay. When it comes to our loved ones, we can pull out all the positives and all the silver linings from very similar situations that we're having in our own life. But for some reason in our own life, we can only see the darkness. We can only see things not moving forward. All right. So I like this simple activity that I ask people to do because it's quick and it's easy to reference. But when you're facing challenges in life, try to imagine yourself as a best friend or your parent or your child or your significant other, someone that you love. Imagine that they're coming to you with that same situation. And then what are you saying to them when they come to you with that situation? Think about that. A lot of times I'm spending a lot of time talking about how you have supported it, how people have supported other individuals in the same situation, or how they would support them, right? And then I also like to have them imagine their own child because a lot of the things that we deal with are experiences that have been dormant from our childhood, from when we were a child. And so a lot of our challenges are coming up in our current experience as adults, okay? Whether you have a child or not. So that's why I like that, imagining yourself as the child, because we tend to be very tender with children. Okay. But for some reason, we don't think that we need to be tender with ourselves. We don't think we need that same type of guidance, that same kind of speaking to. We don't think the vibration of those words and that approach is going to have the same result within ourselves. Okay. But with this exercise, almost every time, okay, we never talk about ourselves or to ourselves in the same way that we would talk to someone or about someone that we love or care about. And that's important for us to do, okay? Be able to compare that to how you usually talk to yourself. How can you begin to close that gap and show yourself the same kindness? What obstacle is there? What belief is there telling you that you don't deserve that type of kindness, that you don't deserve to be handled in that way? What evidence is there? What proof is there that you don't deserve to be handled in the same way that you would handle someone, that you don't deserve the same kind of care and love for yourself that you would extend to someone else? Okay. So coming towards the end, I tried to cut it short, but it's kind of long and I do want to have some discussion. I just want people to remember that self-love is indeed a journey. It's not a finish line. Okay. Each day is definitely an opportunity for us to be like a little bit kinder to ourselves, a little more forgiving to ourselves, a little more supportive to ourselves. Because if no one else is going to do it, right, it is always our responsibility to do so. It's not the responsibility of other individuals. So it's not about comparing ourselves to anyone else. You have to remember that. advertising is like, I think it's like a drug, right? It's that vision that you cannot reproduce, but you sure do invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money into trying to produce that image, trying to reproduce that perfection, right? So consider if what you want is your own desire, or if what you want seems to be the desire of many others, right? I hate to say it, but that BBL situation, see, some people might have wanted that BBL because they see how people who are attracted to the BBL look, admire, but they don't understand what the actual thought process of that person is. So what they thought they were going to get, they don't get. You see what I mean? Anywho, um, we chase many things, but when we chase authenticity, we'll actually embody that. Like we'll actually catch it at some point. And when you try to be a carbon copy of something or someone, you're almost always not going to measure up because it's a carbon copy. It's never going to be exactly like the original. Okay. So we deserve to be a confident original. That's what I believe in my heart, not this out of focus copy. All right. Again, comparison causes us to ignore who we are, ignore our purpose, ignore the beautiful things that we have to contribute in order to try to replace with things that do not align with us. And there's a reason why we are made the way that we are made, right? So self-acceptance is our pathway, our gateway to self-love. And as you leave today, I just want you to remember this. The relationship that you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. Okay. So start with acceptance and keep steering toward the best version of yourself. All right, that's going to bring our meeting to a close today. I want to thank everybody for attending. We'll go ahead and have open discussion right now. If you showed up to the meeting, watch the replay, you showed up and showed out for yourself. And that's always something that should be important and something that you should celebrate. It has meaning. It means that you are thinking about self, you are moving towards being your authentic self and building yourself to be a better part of the equation. So I look forward to meeting up with everybody next week. Any questions or concerns, reach out to me on social media. Feel free to comment on the video, and much love to everybody.